Hey everyone, my name's Mad Starkhaven, and since this is my first commentary video of sorts, if you're new to this channel and you haven't watched any of my other videos, please check them out. You don't have to, but I would greatly appreciate it if you did and left a comment, gave me some feedback. Anyway, getting straight into the video. So today I'm making a video on the PS5 versus the Xbox Series X. Which should you buy? So obviously you can't buy either right now because they're both out of stock, but hopefully this video would be useful for you down the track if you would like to purchase one of these next gen consoles. So first of all, starting off with the price, they're both $500 US, or in Australia where I'm from, they're $750 US. I'm not going to talk about the cheaper variants in this video, but if you are interested, the Xbox Series S is $300 US, I think. No, it's $200 US. And the PlayStation 5 without the disc drive is also $400 US USD. In Australia, they're $600 and $500 respectively. So $600 for the PS5 without the disc drive and $500 for the Xbox Series S without the disc drive. So both the lower variants don't come with disc drives. However, for the purposes of this video, I just want to talk about the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So looking at the stats, so I'm just going to flick them on screen right now. You can pause the video here if you want to look at those specs, but going into more detail, they're both very similar. They're both running on custom RDNA 2 with hardware ray tracing support. Now that ray tracing support will probably be the exact same on both of them, as they're both running RDNA 2 Radeon ray tracing hardware. In terms of GPU power, you may see towards the end of this console generation a slight gap between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, as in the Xbox Series X will probably perform better towards the end of the console generation, but by then we'll probably have a mid-series refresh, so it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest. At this point in time, they both perform very similarly. You'll probably get this very similar range of performance and resolution on both consoles. So for me, it doesn't make much of a difference, the raw specs. The thing that may make a slight difference is the SSD. So the Xbox Series X has a 1TB custom NVMe SSD, whereas the PlayStation 5 has an 825GB custom NVMe. Now, the PlayStation 5's SSD has been hyped to God knows however heaven, with people saying it's going to change gaming, it's faster than anything on PC. I'm going to say it right now that the real benefits for you as a consumer are a few seconds, or 10 or so seconds, several seconds difference between the Xbox Series X and PS5, depending on what games you're running, whether it's third party or first party, and also depending on whether it's been optimized for the SSD. So for example, Red Dead Redemption 2, there is no difference between the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in terms of load times. Final Fantasy 15, the Xbox Series X actually loads faster at 48 seconds, whereas the PS5 loads in a minute 10 seconds. Destiny 2, Xbox Series X is 42 seconds, PS5 is 57 seconds. Monster Hunter's World's the same thing. Arkham Knight, the Xbox Series X is also just marginally quicker. So even though the PlayStation 5 has the faster SSD, your results will vary depending on what game you're playing. So for example, Miles Morales, you've seen it loads in 4 seconds gameplay, or Spider-Man from menu to in the game, like 4 seconds. It is loads faster than the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, those consoles. So no matter which console you get, you're going to get a good experience. In terms of upgrading the SSD, so the PlayStation 5 actually has a smaller SSD, so I would recommend in this regard, if you really care about space and that's something that you worried about, just buy a 2TB hard drive for either console. It doesn't really matter. They both will take a USB 3 2TB hard drive into the USB socket, and just Whatever games you're playing, just put them on the SSD and then transfer them off, because it will be very quick anyway because of that SSD regardless. So you won't be sitting around waiting for game file transfers. And that's cheaper than buying the $330 US or $350 Australian PCI 4.0 drives that they cost a lot because the tech is still relatively new. So save yourself some money, just buy a normal hard drive and yeah, sort that out, and that will sort itself out. The optical drive, they both come with a 4K Ultra Blu-ray drive. If you still rock portable media, they both perform the same, so that shouldn't be a consideration. 8K? No. They're not going to run games at 8K. Maybe like old games, but don't expect them to run 8K. They can barely run games at 4K 60 FPS. And don't take my word for it. Go to Digital Foundry and I'll put a link in the description. They don't run games. They don't have the power to run games at 8K. So 4K 120Hz is very much possible with some older games or maybe some indie games. 1080p 120Hz is definitely possible for both consoles. It'll be most likely 4K 30 FPS with games with ray tracing. It'll most likely be 4K 60 FPS without ray tracing. If the game is more demanding, then maybe 4K 30. It just really depends on the scenario and what graphics settings. There'll probably be lots of options. Hopefully the developers will give lots of options. But if you're going in thinking you're going to get 8K experience, you're probably not going to get it. Also, the Xbox Series X supports variable refresh rate right out of the box, whereas the PlayStation 5 doesn't quite support that quite yet, but it'll probably be put in an update in the future. So, but that shouldn't really determine your buying decision at this point in time, because A, you can't buy one, and B, well, it won't make much of a difference with the frame rates that they're running at, and they should be locked at 60 regardless, or 30. Backwards compatibility, the Xbox Series X has backwards compatibility all the way back to its original Xbox, whereas PS5's back to PlayStation 4 only. That doesn't really matter, in my opinion, unless you're really into those older games on the older consoles. So if you're a diehard Xbox fan, or you have a large library of older games, then that should influence your decision with backwards compatibility. I mean, if you own a PS4 and you have all these PS4 games, then obviously PlayStation 5 is the way to go for you as an upgrade path. But yeah, that's in terms of backwards compatibility. Third-party games, PlayStation 5 has more first-party games. That's without a doubt a fact. You got The Last of Us, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. You got a whole heap of first-party games coming to PlayStation 5 next year and the year after. Xbox Series X yet to deliver on that, but they're working on it. Whether you take them on their word with all their exclusives coming, they just bought Bethesda, that's up to you. That's a subjective thing. For me personally, I wouldn't buy a console for its exclusive per se. I just buy whichever console suits my needs more. Like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, they're both good consoles, so that's just me personally. But for people who would prefer, like, say, to play Spider-Man, get a PlayStation 5. If you really like Halo, or you believe in the promise those Bethesda games will become first party, then obviously, yeah, get the Xbox Series X. Also, the price, I'd think if you really have the money, like you're not on a budget, just get both consoles. To be honest, this whole video I'm comparing the two. If you have the budget, buy both consoles. Or if you play on PC, then get whichever console would meet you can play those games on that console. That's the way I'd do it. But obviously, if you're gonna buy a PC, if you own a PC, you have, I assume you have more money depending on the power of your PC, but I'm not gonna assume that. So it's, at the end of the day, they're both good consoles. My final recommendation would be, if you have the money, okay, you have $750 and you just want to play games, and you don't want to spend too much on top of the console, because obviously games cost money. Okay, you're talking about next gen, they've jacked the prices up by $10 in the US. In Australia, it's even more than that. It's $20, $30, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But again, I don't make these decisions. I wouldn't buy games brand new, so the Games Pass is an excellent value for money option if you just want to play some games, and they all will run great on the Xbox Series X. So if you just want to get in, play some games, Xbox Series X is the way to go. If you have some craving for some specific first party games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, etc, etc, I could list them all off: Last of Us Part 2, Last of Us, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. Then that's the way I'd go. You PlayStation 5 for exclusive, Xbox Series X if you just want to play some games, or just get them both when they come back in stock eventually. Again, if you have the budget, of course. Everyone's situation is different. Anyway, that's just my thoughts and opinions. If you have any comments of your own, or you have your own opinions, please leave them in the comment section below. The gameplay you watched throughout this video was Overwatch. Mayhem. I love Overwatch on PC, specifically just Mayhem. It's a lot of fun. Obviously I'm not that good at Overwatch anymore, as you can probably tell from my aim. I apologize. But if you like this video, please share it, like it, all that YouTube stuff. I'm not gonna ask for any more. Thank you for just watching the video, and if you have any thoughts or opinions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.